All right, so affordable housing right now, the demand for that is at an all-time high. Like, we're absolutely short on affordable housing right now. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about, is buying an apartment complex a good investment? All right, so I'm gonna tell you about my first dirty little secret, and then I'm gonna tell you about my second dirty little secret, and by the end of this video, you're gonna be running out buying apartment complexes like you're a madman. All right, so I just moved out to Colorado Springs. I was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado, and I'm sending postcards using landofferletter.com, and at the end of this video, I'm gonna give you my $1 million postcard that I've used to purchase like tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate as a free gift to you today, just by watching this video. And also, go ahead and smash that subscribe button because I'm gonna keep giving you stuff this whole entire time. You're gonna wanna give some things too. All right, so let's talk about 2015. I started mailing these postcards. I smell the sweet man. I mailed it. I'm trying to say I mailed the sweet man. I didn't smell the sweet man, but I mailed the sweet man a postcard saying, hey, I'd like to buy your property all cash. If you're interested in a fair cash price, go ahead and call me or text me. Well, he was 82 years old, so he didn't text me, but he loved to call. We struck up a relationship. I started looking at multiple properties that he owned, and it all started with this little postcard I'm gonna give to you today for free. But let's talk about the apartment complex that he had. It was a triplex, and I ultimately pulled the trigger on purchasing this thing about a year later, 2016. So my point being made here is this was not just something I just bought overnight. One, it was my first apartment complex, and two, this guy didn't quite trust me as well either. Like, I had to build trust with him. We built a relationship, and ultimately we ended up partnering on this deal because the price that he wanted, I wasn't able to pay it. But he also had a huge motivation factor. He had a tenant that had stopped paying the rent, and then he also had two other units sitting vacant that he was heating and providing electric for and water for. He ultimately owed the Colorado Springs Utility Company about $1,000 that he did not have the money to pay. And he also had a little over $1,000 a month mortgage payment on this property. So he was going in the negative about $2,000 a month for this property, and it was in absolute terrible condition. Like, if you walk through it, like, you would see cracked needles, you would see drugs, you name it. So I came to him with a plan saying, Mr. Norm, what do you think about partnering together on this? I know that you can't sell this property for what you need to sell it for. And the reason why, he had owned it for almost 30 something years, and he had been taking depreciation on it. He had been doing cost segregation, basically where he paid hardly any money on taxes by writing off the building for 27 and a half years. So he would have had to pay recapture if he sold this property for $1 profit. He would have had to pay everything back. So we went in partnership. I came in, an attorney drew everything up. We're now 50-50 partners. We only owe $116,000 on the mortgage, and this property's worth like probably about $200,000 as it sat. It needed a lot of work. So I brought in $85,000 to completely renovate this property. And once you do that, you're pretty much good for 9 years after you replace all the refrigerators, all the dishwashers, everything. Actually, these properties didn't even have dishwashers, but we put them in because we all want dishwashers. So we renovate it, and we find 3 amazing tenants, and we're bringing in a little over $3,000 a month, and the tenants are paying all their utilities, everything's being paid, and then our mortgage payment was about $1,100. So if you take $3,000 minus $1,100, that's almost $1,900 a month in net positive income that Norm went from basically going in the negative $2,000 a month to getting about $1,000 a month put into his pocket every single month for the rest of his life. So he had a great deal. I also had a great deal because I just bought my first triplex, and here's what the market has been doing in Colorado Springs, going up and up and up and up. Well, ultimately, Norm did pass away just recently, about a year ago. His children inherited the estate, and I had 2 options. I could have refinanced the property to pay the children off. I would have had to split everything in half with them at exactly what the property was appraised for at that time. It was appraised for about $479. So I would have had to come up with about $479 to pay them off, basically. And or we could have just sold the property, and that's what we did. We sold it for $479,000. We paid off the mortgage, and then we split what was left over because that was the arrangement that me and Norm had come to. It ultimately gave me a lot of profit. It did really well, and then that ultimately sent me into my second multifamily deal just a very short time after that. And then let me mention too, what did I do with my funds? I did not go out and spend it. I did what's called a 1031 tax exchange, which ultimately bought me 2 brand new houses. I was able to take those funds that I got from that sale of that triplex, and I purchased 2 brand new houses with that money. Dirty little secret number 2, and I was mailing postcards that I already talked to you that I was going to give you that as a free gift today. So stay tuned, it's still yours. And we also started cold calling as well. So we would mail a postcard and then follow up with the cold call. And ultimately, one of my cold callers, Sam, that's dialing from New Mexico. I'm in Colorado Springs, and she's dialing, and she gets this gentleman on the line that has an apartment complex in Colorado Springs, and he's managing it from Tennessee. Imagine how bad this place was being ran. If they had $600, they pretty much got to move in. That's pretty much plain and simple. So ultimately, we got this property under contract with the purchase agreement, and I'll give it to you today for free. This is the exact purchase agreement that we used to buy both of these deals, the triplex and the apartment complex. If you go to thelandsharks.com/contract, it is yours for free today. And I just asked that you run this purchase agreement by a licensed real estate attorney in your area, in your state, to make sure it's legal to use where you're currently at. All right, continue on. So we got the property under contract via purchase agreement for $760,000. We raised some funds from some people at our local meetup. Me and my real estate investor and realtor partner actually run a local meetup in Colorado Springs, Colorado at Third Space Coffee on the first Tuesday of each month. If you come in, tell them Brent sent you and you'll get the special treatment. But we raised the funds together, and then we ultimately borrowed the rest of the funds from a hard money lender in town, and we were paying about 9% interest for this purchase of this property, plus the renovation that they also lent us. So we ultimately borrowed about $700,000 to buy this property and renovate it. All right, so I hope you're starting to understand how good of an investment a multifamily property is. If you're following me along here, we talked about the triplex, we're still talking about the 19 unit. I'm actually still renovating this 19 unit today as we speak, but I've got 4 of the units completely rented out, and we've already got an evaluation of $2.3 million for this property that we paid $749,000 for. So if you're following me here, it's all about buying something that's undervalued or being run into the ground or poorly managed from another state, or maybe an elderly person like Norm that was getting taken advantage of by his tenant that always promised to pay next week, and next week always came, but no, the pay didn't. So ultimately, he was paying for the utilities for this woman to live for free. And you got to come in and start solving these problems for people. That's where you find motivated sellers. You got to solve their problem. So this person that sold us a 19-unit apartment complex from Tennessee, the apartment complex is in Colorado Springs. He was motivated because he was tired of management. He was tired of managing the property from another state. Basically, in 2 different time zones as well, because Colorado time is Mountain Standard Time. Then you got Central Time, and then you got Eastern Standard Time. This guy's sitting in Eastern Standard Time, 2 time zones over. So at 10 o'clock at night, his time is when his tenants are calling him at 8 p.m. saying, hey, my heat doesn't work, and this gentleman's trying to go to sleep. So imagine the motivation that he had to get rid of this dump of a property to some poor sucker like me, that now the property is almost 4x in value. All right, now that I've talked about all my little pitfalls and stories, let me tell you how you can make this a great investment. I want you to start with the end in mind. 1, always plan on it taking 3 times longer than you plan. Also, have backup plans like reserve funds. A lot of the times I see guys fail in multifamily is they run out of money. Don't be afraid to share profits with others, because sometimes they can help you carry this burden along the way. So I'm also a manager of this 19-unit apartment complex, but guess who else is a manager of it? My real estate investor, also realtor partner that manages properties. He and his firm are going to manage this property, this 19-unit apartment complex, and they also manage my 3-unit as well. But starting with the end in mind, you never want to take on the management of these things. There's a local company in Colorado Springs. They're taking care of the maintenance and the repairs, and that's the problem. That's how you keep it at a good investment. You've got to keep up with these repairs. This gentleman that sold us the 19-unit apartment complex, he knew that the buildings were falling into the ground. It ultimately took $140,000 to stabilize this building with the foundation repairs. And that is stuff underneath the ground. Like, I wish I could have said that, yeah, I spent that on kitchens and bathrooms, the things that people actually want to see, but it was on steel underneath the ground. So ultimately, that's a bad repair. How do you keep your investment proper or good, a good investment? if that previous owner or the following previous owners would have had gutters and downspouts and kept the trees away from the building, you name it. There were so many things that were delayed maintenance or just completely ignored maintenance. Like literally the plumbing lines were just destroyed and they didn't have heat underneath the building, so the water lines would freeze. So all these little things we had to mitigate and make this a good investment. Hey guys, all right, I have a free gift for you. As promised, the postcard that I used to acquire tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate can be found for you for free right now at going to thelandsharks.com/postcard. That's thelandsharks.com/postcard. It's on the screen for you. I hope you enjoyed, and please, if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and smash that subscribe button.